You exist at the best time to be alive on the planet. It may not seem that way to you. You might have been a little afraid. You might have wondered what was happening in the world or what was happening to you. And I'm saying you're evolving and you're existing now because your evolution is going to really create a great world. And then you're going to become happy and then you're going to love yourself and then you're going to love others. That's what's going to happen. I know that may not make sense to you, but now I'm going to explain it. This morning, I wrote a message from Wilhelm, and it was said the election in the United States is vital for evolution. And after I did that, I came to my computer and then I looked and I found a message that I was given 4 years ago on this date, on October 30th. And as I read that one, it'll make sense as to why the message came through this morning about why the election in the United States is vital for evolution. Because that's all we're ever doing is evolving or attempting to as an individual and also as a civilization, as a world. And that gets concentrated in certain places at certain times. But I'm going to explain that. But first, I'm going to read the message. It's a little long. You won't be able to really see it, but I'm going to read it and you will understand it as I do. And it is this. And as you can see, it came through October 30th, 2020. Now you can. This message will be one of our best. And those of you who pay close attention will find the comfort you sought as you move through the coming months of your lives. We apologize in advance for the length of this message. That is coming from Roger. See, he still holds this idea. He is infringing on others. He will get over it eventually. We have continually said you are individually and collectively moving through a global restructuring, but the place where that is most crucial is within you. When you awakened today, you saw the conditions of your world. You may have thought things were in complete chaos, yet we took look at them and see perfection. That perfection exists within your life, but you have to be the one to decide to restructure. We had tied this restructuring to the United States, and we will continue to do so. The slogan, Yes, we can, was coined by the former U.S. President Barack Obama. None of you believe you could. We are speaking not of the election itself, but something that was within you. When Roger heard those words, he did not think that a black person could become president of the United States. Roger found it challenging to see beyond his current state of existence, and that is occurring for you now. But once you understand why, you will feel better. Roger vividly remembers when he became aware of his held limitations when the candidate won the Iowa primary. Many did not think that was possible. We are providing details for when you put them together, you might not be as frightened as you are now. Now, the election of Obama set into motion a collective fear that had festered for eons. You each began to think that due to this global shift, which it was, you thought you might lose something. So divisions amongst the masses grew. But that division has existed within you. You might think that campaign slogans are meaningless, but that signals the difficulty many of you have experienced in your lives. You want to pick and choose what you feel is meaningful, and then you discount those things you either don't understand or choose to ignore. The other campaign slogans are telling as well. You had Make America Great Again, and now you have Build Back Better. None of them have any meaning until you apply them to your lives personally, which we will do now. You have come to erroneously believe that if you hang on to who you were, you can maintain a feeling of safety and security. You doubt whether or not you can build something better because you may not have accomplished that in your life. And now we bring you to the point of the story. And of course, we will use Roger as the example. Roger's hypocrisy got to him last night, as it will for many of you as you move through this period. In Roger's talk the other day, he told the attendees that none of them had meaningless experiences. Even the painful, uncomfortable, or embarrassing ones held such great value, not only for you, but also for all others. But he was not doing that, as you have yet to do that thing in your life entirely. Yesterday, Roger had the idea to record and send a video, of course, prompted by us, as he had no idea what he was doing. When he recorded the footage, Roger acknowledged his guilt, as Roger felt he might have done more to help others at this time, for Roger received information from us that was comforting, but he was unwilling to share it with others for fear of judgment. Now he's over that one as he sent the video, but it gets better. Last night, his former roommate calls and, in physical distress, wants Roger to pick him up. At that moment, Roger was in the grocery store, but also knew he was supposed to get him, for that is part of Roger's path in this lifetime, he feared. As each of you sometimes each of you feared something in yours. Roger also knew he had been provided information on this particular condition because Roger experienced it and knew that not many in the world would understand this. Still, Roger was unwilling to step up to the plate. Now he can no longer do so, and his restructuring is moving along nicely. That message came through in 2020, and that's been my challenge. I started receiving Wilhelm in 1989. During that time, I didn't tell many people, didn't share it. And as I was also moving through a lot of things in my life over the years that were challenging, difficult, and then what occurred was I started to heal. I discovered, and I'm only still discovering this recently, so you're going to keep discovering things about yourself. But for those 35 years, I'm downloading a philosophy that was meant for this time in our world. Because, see, we were going to move through a big change and transformation. And that the more of us who decide that we were going to love ourselves, then we would start to have different lives. We would heal physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of those. And I know that it works because that's what happened for me. And that's the story that I'm going to tell now. And that's the work that I'm putting out. But I'm saying this because I know that you can accomplish anything. There's nothing standing in your way that would prevent you from having this wonderful life except you be unwilling to own yourself. And I can say that because, as you can see, I wasn't doing that because I thought people aren't going to understand, they aren't going to get it. But you'll get this. Everything is energy on our planet. And so we will use it individually and then collectively to manifest, to create something. And the reason that it's so difficult in the United States is because they are moving through a big period. And I put something out the other day talking about the Pluto return, because when we understand energy, we can see that when the United States was formed, Pluto was moving. It takes 248 years, and so it's here now. And we can think things are accidental, but they aren't. And so 2024 is when many places are having elections, and the United States is a big one because it's leading the way because it's been the one that everyone looks to. And so the choices that we make about our lives, about ourselves, will determine how the world turns out because that's how it's been working for so long. The very first Wilhelm channeling sessions that I did, they talked about that. They said over time, civilizations change, and then certain places are the leaders. Different empires over time have been that. For the last 248 years, the United States has been there. But the United States said they were going to have everything equal and just and break away from the old way, and then did the exact same things that they broke away from. So the hypocrisy came up. And that's what we're moving through now. When you move through a return, that means you have to look at everything you couldn't do that you didn't do before in yourself, and then also in our world. That is what is happening. And that was the philosophy that I was given. And I couldn't have known that that was happening, just like you don't know what you have until you start to develop it. But everyone has something. This is why this could be the best time of your life, because if you decide to move through those restrictions and limitations that have existed within you, that's the only reason that you're not experiencing the life you want to have, the only reason you wouldn't be abundant and in love with yourself and all of those things. And I know that as well because I held back. I didn't want to be judged. And I knew that it was difficult for people to accept because everything is consciousness. And I receive things in time. There is an order in the universe. And so when I discovered, wait a minute, I was given a message on everyone's birthday in 2012 that made no sense at all. Except when I meet with somebody and I go through that with you, you see that there's a connection. You have this unique connection in your life. And so I'm going to spend the rest of my life putting this stuff down because it's so fascinating now that I'm discovering more. I put out several little ebooks, as I call them, where you can see that I receive messages on the same date over years because what happens is we evolve in our consciousness over linear time. Wilhelm doesn't rely on that. They can give me information that is not limited in this 3D universe. That's just what happens. Challenging to explain that, and it was challenging for me to accept it, except now I know how valuable that is, and I can no longer not give it to others, which will be the same for you. We all come with something that's unique and valuable, and it develops at different times. The reason that I could bring through a philosophy because when society changes, there are certain people who, because of what they have lived, experienced, come to know, all of a sudden a philosophy comes up. And mine was that I was given through Wilhelm is called Your Life Operating Instructions, meaning creating this new world. You have to let go of the old stuff. We all do. We have to let go of all our judgments, all our biases, our prejudices, the whole bit. And so when I began to become aware of this. I want you to understand the entire thing, what I moved through, because I had to go back and look at my biases and acknowledge that I had racism and misogyny within me. And that's the stuff that we're moving through now. And so we can't do that unless we acknowledge that it existed within all of us, you see, because we're these eternal spiritual beings. So we had to have attracted some of that at some point. When you look at, and this came through in a Wilhelm channeling session, actually, if you were to look at your DNA, where you see that your blood, you came from all these different places that you have no idea, that means that's an indication that you're this eternal, spiritual, meaningful person that is here on the earth now to shine. And when you do that energetically, you change your life and you change the world. We could go into the quantum sciences and talk about all of that, which I'm going to do a lot more moving forward, because it would be important for us to understand that interconnectedness that we all have. But you exist now to have this really wonderful life. And that's what my work was done. And I'd love for you to come to the channeling session because it's going to be the new moon, the best time for you to set forth what you want to create in your life. And then we'll start to see that show up. But it's also a time where we need to up-level our energy as we move through all the elections globally that are happening. And if we choose love, we're choosing ourselves. That's the only choice that any of us has is to choose love, and that's ourselves. And eventually you see that's everyone else. Thank you for being here. Please subscribe to the channel if it's your first time and share it with others. You can create a wonderful life and change the world.